1983. I'm sitting in the green room waiting to appear on a show, Late Night with David Letterman. A production assistant is sitting across from me doing the pre-interview. He asks questions, takes notes, and he will run upstairs to the network censor, who will decide what I can and cannot say. 10 years earlier, Playboy had hired me to take over the Playboy Advisor column, to give sex advice to 25 million readers. The column was anonymous. No one knew who I was, but after 10 years, I had written a book, The Playboy Advisor on Love and Sex by Jamespeterson, me. And I'd gone on television shows. Merv Griffin, I'm sitting next to a LA comedian, Robert Klein, and he looks at me and says, "Who are you to give sex advice? You don't even have hair." If a woman judges you by the top of your head, you are probably doing something she likes very, very much. Merv Griffin jumps in. What qualified you to give sex advice? You were 24. And I said, I was a Boy Scout. The Boy Scout motto is be prepared. And since I was 12 years old, I have read everything I could about sex in case it ever happened to me. Well, what kind of questions do you get? People write to the column who have no one else to turn to. Men who come in a heated rush. Women who ask, is that all there is? But most of the questions ask the basic question, am I normal? And I have a quotation framed on the wall of my office that says, sex is perfectly natural. It's almost never naturally perfect. Backstory. When the column started in 1960, it was mostly about fashion, food, and drink, how to be James Bond. When I took over the column, I got 1,000 letters a month from people who had no one else to turn to, who wanted answers on one thing, sex. And I changed the column. And Mr. Hefner noticed and called me up and said, you're talking too much about sex, you're too explicit. The column is a gentleman's guide. The magazine stops at the bedroom door. And I said, Hef, what happens beyond that door defines who you are as a gentleman. And he thought about it and said, okay. And now I'm in the Letterman green room. The production assistant comes back and says, everything's okay. You just cannot say, absolutely cannot say, masturbation or oral sex. The other guests run late, and they throw me on at the last minute, and I am drowning in adrenaline, and I don't even remember the first 2 minutes, but then David asks a question. What's the weirdest letter you ever got? I know the answer, and without thinking, I tell the truth. A reader once wrote, Dear Playboy Advisor, I masturbate with sandpaper. Do I have a problem? And I said, yes, but not for long. The audience goes wild. I look at Letterman behind the makeup. Blood is draining from the face. He's worried, will I have a show on Monday? And sure enough, some conservative columnist complains to NBC and says, the Advisor segment was the low point of Western civilization. Yes! Letterman keeps his show, but I am never again invited on network television. But a lecture agent had seen the segment and called me and said, would you like to speak on college campuses? You can say anything you like. And that's exactly what I do. For 4 years, 125 campuses, speaking to audiences of hundreds of students who, just like the readers of the column, have no one else to turn to. And I say out loud words they have never heard spoken. And in fact, the lecture is about the sexual revolution was changing culture one word at a time. Clitoris. Prior to the word clitoris first appeared in the pages of Playboy magazine in 1968. Prior to that, everyone thought it was a monument in Greece. But Masters and Johnson said, it's a sexual nerve center for women. So I would say to the students, okay, girls, you want to change your sex life? Go home tonight and show your partner where your clitoris is. He will appreciate it, but you will really appreciate it. 125 schools, and on many of the schools, there were protests outside the hall. And so I would say to the students, the people outside this hall think that speaking about sex leads to sex. They are absolutely correct. Let's give them something to talk about. On the count of 3, make the noise you make when you reach orgasm. Don't worry, this isn't a sing-along. 1, 2, 3. And the noise is defiant and life-affirming, and I soar, and I say, don't ever let anyone silence you. Don't let anyone dictate who you love or how you love. It is your life. Live it.